Hi, everyone. Welcome to another moment with the mayor. And today I'm super excited to have Sam and Shirley Nero, the leaders of New Life Church, right outside of Richfield, but we consider them a part of our Richfield community. So thank you, Shirley and Sam, for joining me today.
Glad to do this.
Thank you. So a lot of people in our community know about you and your leadership, but for folks who may be meeting you for the first time today, can you guys just tell me a little bit about who you are in the congregation?
Yeah, well, my name is Sam Nero. My wife Shirley is with me, and we been in for 47 years. We've been married for 47 years. Got married and moved to Minnesota, and about 34 years ago, God called us into the ministry, come and start a ministry, and we worshipped in South Minneapolis for a long period of time, and after that, we just felt the need to move out to that first tier of the suburbs, and we came into Richfield and felt this is a place that we can make home. This is a place that we can really settle down and do some things that we felt that we were called to do. And our desire has always been how do we connect and how do we really reach beyond what we think we know into places where we can say how can we grow, how can we improve, how can we include others. And so that's where we have 5 girls and 8 grandkids. And we love the work in Richfield. Richfield's a blessed place to work. I call it home, and I just enjoy it.
So as we know, February is Black History Month. Is there anything that you're doing in your congregation to celebrate? Are there what does Black History Month mean for you and your congregation?
But this year is going to be a little different. We last year we did a lot, but this year because of the pandemic, matter of fact, we're just going back into the place where we can fellowship and unite together. So we're not doing a lot. I think the last week or so we'll probably be doing something. Then we have kids out. Like this Sunday, we're going to have some kids dancing in relationship to all the stuff that's going on in relationship and respect to Black History Month. So those kind of things we're just looking at doing, but not a lot this year. What we're hoping to do is get involved in some stuff that's happening around the city. The church that we're at, we had planned to have a somewhat of a unity kind of service or get to know Black history kind of service with that church, which is Cedar Valley. But again, because of the pandemic, it hasn't happened. We still potentially can do something at the end of the month, doing something like that. But it's just been a little difficult. And what we did last year, what we had planned to do this year, matter of fact, my wife and I, we both went to a Black HBC school, and we had planned to do some things like that in relationship to some of those kind of things as we was getting involved in, and that we can tell where we come from. I went there back in the early years, finished in 1970 with an electrical engineering degree, and just wanted to highlight. We learned that last week I was listening, I found out that a lot of young folks, high school kids, are thinking about going to medical school, and Southern has a good medical program as well. So I'm hoping a lot of that begin to happen, that we can begin to share and let folks know what goes on in Black history schools, Black and HBC schools.
Yeah, I know so many things have been impacted this year because of COVID, but it's great to hear that. Hopefully you'll do something at the end of the month, and obviously we need to continue doing things year round to be growing our inclusion and our equity across our whole city. So I'm really excited to continue partnering with you and the congregation on that work. So tell us a little bit more about your connection, your personal connection to Richfield. When you think about your congregation, do you have families from Richfield? What are some of the things that really tie you to the Richfield community?
This is Shirley. What ties us to the community is that we have a child care center / academy. We been doing that for about 30 years. So we have a lot of parents bring their children from Richfield, Bloomington, and from afar. And so some of our teachers live in Richfield. We have we do a summer school program. During the summer right now, we set up to do pod since a lot of the kids was doing distant learning. So that's one of the biggest ways that I think that we're tied to Richfield is with our daycare center. It's called Zoe Child Care Center. And so we love it, and the parents love it, and we continue to grow in there. We are in a church called Church of Peace that's on Xerxes Avenue in Richfield. So that's where we are housed at right now.
And the other thing we want to do in Richfield, which has been something we've been, when we came to Richfield, we really wanted to get involved. We wanted to see what goes on. And as a church, we got involved with PMAC, and we did some things there. We had three members that joined PMAC back in those days. I don't know if it's still going on. Just to kind of identify how do we get our kids involved and how do we do things that to letting folks know that we just didn't want to just stay in the walls of the church. We wanted to be out in the community. We wanted to know our neighbors. We wanted to know how things worked and those kind of things. And we did certain things like when we had food giveaway, we gave food to the folks in Richfield that needed it. And it was exciting, to have folks come, have good conversations and help them out and those kind of things as well. And clothing we gave away. It was just a good time. And even in this day and time, I'm excited to know that I try to my best to stay in touch with Simon Trotman, just to kind of keep us abreast of what happened and when we can get involved in some of the things we can do. And we're looking at that. I know you shared with us about housing in Richfield, and there's about 5-6 families that we've talked to that interested in seeing what can they do to buy a house in Richfield. Richfield is like I like to think, and then we talk about this, it's like a good community. It's like a small town effect. It's like, it's almost like we're in a little small unit there, area that is so easy to talk and reach your neighbors. And we've been just thinking about how those things we can do and how we can stay involved and make things happen. And again, we're still looking for a building that we could come back to Richfield and just do and be service and ready to have some things happen.
So those sound like so many great ideas in terms of things that you've done in the past to contribute to our community, but also things that we can continue to do together now. So you talked about housing, and so the city does have a down payment assistance for folks who are interested in buying their first home in Richfield. I know right now the market is very difficult, but if there are people who are interested in purchasing their first home, we have a great first-time home buyers down payment assistance program that we'd love to connect folks to who want to call Richfield home and buy their first home here. We also, you mentioned PMAC, and we actually have a new liaison with our police that we hired a few months ago, but she's been kind of redeployed to focusing on COVID response, but now she is spending more time with our police department. And so she is looking at starting PMAC up again. So that's another great resource that I can make sure that you and your congregation are connected to. And then of course, just finding different ways to bridge across our community. We are looking at a project of embedding equity into everything we do with a new hire, William Green, which I know both of you know very well, who's such a great asset to our staff and will help us think about how we can embed equity in all that we do and connect with our community members. So obviously that's a little bit difficult now with COVID, but we'll continue to move that work forward. And also we'll look for great opportunities, hopefully once more folks can get vaccinated and we're able to connect more in person. And then the last thing that you mentioned was looking for space. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we've had a lot of businesses, close across the whole country, but we're gonna be seeing changes in our commercial properties and just across the whole community. And so that is something to keep front and center as what are those changes, what are those vacancies, and is there any space that might make sense for your congregation to come back and call Richfield home? We would absolutely love that. So it sounds like there's so many things that we can keep working on together. And so my last question is, the two of you are just such tremendous leaders in our community, and we're extremely thankful to have you in Richfield and contributing to the growth of our community here. What are some of your visions that you have for growing community, equity, and inclusion here in Richfield from your leadership perspective? How do you want to see the future of our community look?
What things we want to do, my biggest heart is, again, has always been the race issue. How do we do that? How do we work together? And how do we create an atmosphere that we can, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but how do we create an atmosphere that it becomes more evident, more open, that that's who we are? We want to do that as a Richfield and say, this is what we are and this is how we live. We know things that happened in the past. We know things are still going on. But how do we look together as a group of people and say, hey, these are the things we can do? I often think, and when I was talking to folks, I often think, I don't know if there's a lot of businesses in the Richfield area that deals with African Americans. Americans. Love to see what kind of businesses that, if doesn't exist, what can we do? What can we do in the law enforcement? I remember when we started over there in Richfield, and my first question when I talked to the mayor before Miss Debbie was the fact that, look, where are the African-American police? How do we have it? I mean, they used to share with me, we've been trying, but we haven't been able to locate any that was willing to come to Richfield. So those kind of things, I've always wanted to see, how do we do that? As we often talk and as you often see, we hear the questions. We like to be around folks that sometimes look like we do, so we can have a conversation, not in fear or doubt, but having a conversation to know that we can talk and get some things put in place. But and those kind of things, I enjoyed that when I was on PMAC, to being able to police. We come up to the church and we have some good conversations about how to do certain things, what can we do, what's missing, and how do we put these things in place. And so those kind of things I'm really looking forward to as we go through all this stuff that's happening with this unrest, racial divide. How do we look at it and say, look, the problem exists. How do we start developing a solution? So we can look at the solution, and we often talk about the problems, often talk about what we don't do, but we aren't coming to the table saying, hey, what can we do? How can we have a conversation about what we can do and just focus on that, and sometimes put what's going on in the back and say, we know it's there, but we got to deal with something to get things put in place. Another things we've been talking about since day one as well, when Mayor Debbie was there, we often talk about where is the meeting place for the young folks. We don't. We have a community center, but we don't have a community center that's fitted for young folks. I said, where's the community center? And at that time, we had to go over to Edina, to the YMCA, because we don't have nothing. And we had often thought about it. What can we do? Before she left, we had a building that we were trying to convert into some kind of a hub that we can do something. And I still think that's a viable thing we can do. Create a hub, and in that hub, there's so many things. It can be a coffee shop. It could be a meeting room. It could be places where kids come to play games. Kids come to do training. You can get them trained and those kind of things. All those things, I believe, because Richfield, the way it's laid out, those things can happen easy. We're a close-knit group. We can make these things happen. And I believe the business folks that I've met in Richfield, they got the same things on their heart. But it's just stuff that is coming in a way that we just need to figure out, how do we get around that and look at what we can do. And when we can do it, I think we got a good thing before us that we could run with and see things happen. I'm a firm believer. We run with visions, and visions pop up. Let's run with it. But too many times the obstacles gets in the way. When the obstacles get there, then we tend to creep and crawl. But I think we can start running and doing some things that we need to get done and make some things happen. But like I say, we talked about it. We love dance. African Americans love dance. Our kids love to dance, and we've been thinking again, once that building come available, we would love to have a studio that we can have a different music going on, different dance, different activities. So we can let folks know these are things happen, and we want to see it happen. And we don't want to necessarily say, we're looking for the glory. I'm looking for Richfield to get the point that Richfield is the place to be. Richfield is the place where things happen. Richfield is a place that we get things done, because as a unit, we make things happen. And that's what I'm looking for. I enjoyed that so much when we had the building there. The churches would get together, and we would pray, and we would talk, we would plan, do Martin Luther King days and those kind of things, and go to the parks and do stuff. I want to get back to those days and those kind of things, and I want to see happen because, again, I love Richfield. So it's such compact that, you can feel like you're at home.
That is so exciting, and that is such a beautiful vision. And I just love your focus on, what can we do? Acknowledging that there's issues, that there's barriers, but not getting stuck there, but really saying we have so many ideas for solutions. What are those solutions, and how do we work together to make that happen?
Exactly.
Absolutely. That is extremely exciting. And I'm really glad that you shared your vision. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have the two of you come on Moment with the Mayor, so that more of our residents could learn about New Life, could connect, and could help be a part of that vision. And so my last question is, before we close, how can people learn more about your congregation, about the amazing community and work of New Life, and connect with the two of you?
We have a website. You don't have it in front of me right now. We have a website for the Gee Whiz, Nero. We have a website that we can go to. It's churchofnewlife.org, I believe it is. And we got that website. If you check the website out, that you can come in. I know that daycare. Shirley going to tell you about the daycare. You can get involved there. We do so many things at the daycare that we try and reach the community. And she'll tell you that, and I'll get this website for you right quick.
Yes, the daycare. I don't know what type of information you want about daycare, but we really trying to want to reach the parents that's the daycare. We try to do an annual fundraiser. A lot of times that the parents can't afford it, child care, and they cannot get the full assistance that they need. You know, I don't qualify to get daycare from the county, so what we try to do every year is put on a fundraiser so that we can give some scholarships to some of the parents. That's been helpful. Over the last year, we were not able to do that. So we were thinking that this year, how can we do something that can help parents who really need to go to work but really can't afford for a child care center. So that's one of the things that we worked on, we want to work on. And like Sam was saying, that a lot of times that there is no community center for our young people to hang out. And so we have an excellent dance ministry within the church, but we was thinking, how can we create a dance studio for children? There's not an African-American, multicultural, and I don't want to just say African-American, multicultural dance studio that's in Richfield. Between Minneapolis, then you have Richfield, and then you have Bloomington, and then a lot of our kids go out way down to Burnsville, Apple Valley to a dance studio. So that's one of our goals that we was hoping that we would be able to do this year, is create a dance studio. So give us some of the kids an outlet of coming and having another place to hang out. With how we're going to fund it, we're not quite sure, but we're hoping to have an opportunity, you know, to help those young people, and also have some classes for parents that, you know, need some parenting skills. We do have some parents that need some skills, so there's a lot of things that we're trying to work on within our daycare center to help our parents and the kids in the community. The address where we are at 8600 Bloomington Avenue, South in Bloomington, Minnesota.
And again, my goal has always been the work in the church, and how do we work and how do we do things. That's what I think the church is. How do we be the church of the city and not necessarily a church of a few people and those kind of things.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Nero and Shirley, for joining me to talk a little bit more about your leadership, your work, your vision for the community of Richfield. And it's been such a pleasure to have you on, and I look forward to continuing our collaboration together.